Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion are simple: to highlight the incredible nonprofits that make our communities stronger. Each episode is a chance for these organizations to tell their story in their words, sharing not just what they do, but why it matters to the people they serve, to their supporters, and to all of us who believe in the power of community. Through podcasting, we hope to amplify their voices, inspire connection, and give them one more tool to impact the hearts of donors, partners, and neighbors alike. This work is made possible through the generous support of our incredible partners: Cap Trust, offering fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations; Western Health Advantage, a local not-for-profit health plan that believes healthcare is more than coverage. It's about caring. CORE, executive leadership and comprehensive support services. They work in it so you can work on it. And Five Star Bank, a local, trusted advisor to community nonprofits for over 25 years. Imagine turning 18 and being expected to build an adult life without the one thing so many of us take for granted: a safe place to call home. For young people aging out of foster care, that instability can become the barrier between wanting an education and actually completing one. And that's exactly the problem Academy Stay was created to address. My guest is Jenny Davidson, founder and CEO of Academy Stay, a Sacramento nonprofit providing former foster youth ages 18 to 24 with beautiful, fully furnished housing while they attend college or trade school, along with life skills training, mentoring, transportation resources, financial education, and perhaps most importantly, a genuine sense of community. What started as an idea sketched out over lunch has become a 32-unit complex where young adults are finding stability, building independence, and graduating. In less than 2 years, Academy Stay has already celebrated 14 graduates. But this conversation is about much more than housing. It's about dignity. It's about belonging. And it's about what can happen when we give a young person what Jenny calls a gentle pause, enough stability to catch their breath, focus on their future, and hear someone say, "I believe in you." Jenny Davidson, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm excited to be here.
So am I, because you are one of the newer organizations that is actually getting a lot of conversation, partly because of the success of what you've already started, but I think partly because of the novelty of it. So let's get started. You had a long history, a career, if you will, in community service. And we were just talking about, where you've been and some of the things that you've done. And it was at a late stage that you chose to get your college degree, not one, but both,
Yes.
which is extremely commendable.
Thank you.
And what was it? What were you thinking, at that stage of your life?
Yeah. So in the beginning of my career, my heart was always, I want to be face to face with the person who I'm helping. And I want to know that my work, my history of knowledge, whatever, was going to really impact this one person. Right. And I didn't think that college would serve that, like case management advocate kind of role as well. And then in 2005, I had a very tragic loss. My youngest son died of a genetic anomaly. At the time, I was working at CPS. And so I couldn't go back to work, and see child abuse every single day. And so I ended up leaving there and kind of floundering for a minute. And somebody said to me, "Everyone's going to see that Jordan changed your life, but it's up to you what the change is." And so the next day, I signed up for my very first college class. I was in my late 30s. And in 3 years, I got my undergrad in organizational leadership with straight A's, because I was just like, I'm doing this for him. And it's going to, this is going to be kind of his legacy. And then I went right into my master's program and I got a master's in business administration. And right away started working with Santa Placer with helping with domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking survivors. And so for that time period, my kind of inner mantra was, I want to make the world a better place for children who get to stay. And I said it 10,000 times, right? Like that was my whole thing. And then in 2023, he would have been turning 18. And I kind of realigned and was trying to figure out what's next for me because, if he had stayed, he wouldn't be a child anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having lunch with just a really dear friend, and he said, "Well, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, anything in the world." And I started thinking kind of small at first because, like, I'm not thinking that there's funding, just, somebody's just going to hand me the money to make this happen,
In
right?
other words, get that funding out of your head.
Yeah.
As if it
He said,
wasn't.
"Think bigger." He said, "Think bigger." So I said, "Well, I would want to get back to those foster youth who I had to walk away from when my son died. I'd want to do something for them." So I started really researching what's really impacting foster youth, and especially this 18 to 24-year-old age range. And I found out that 93% want to go to college or trade school someday, but they have a less than 4% graduation rate.
Right.
And I thought, these are smart kids. Like, they've had to think outside the box. They had to be creative. Like, why is this less than 4%? What's that? So I looked into it, and it's really housing instability, financial insecurity, and not feeling like they belong to any kind of community or family or anything. So I thought, like, this is something we can build, right? If money really isn't a problem, like, I'm serious if you're serious, kind of a thing. And so we looked at purchasing an apartment complex. What would that look like? How much would that be? What size would we want? What would we do? And what would we incorporate there? And really, literally on the back of a napkin at Paul Martin's having lunch, we kind of created Academy Stay. And it's amazing. Like, that was 3 years ago, and it's going strong.
It really is amazing. That whole conversation is amazing because in many cases, just a child incident like that could free somebody.
Mhm.
And it actually motivated you.
It
And
did,
it
yeah.
took you to another level to then go on to college and then continue, down a path that you saw an opportunity. And boy, if it didn't give you purpose,
Absolutely.
and recognizing that it's the foster youth now that you see you can make an impact and you can change. And we hear this a lot because we've had other foster organizations on. The challenge for these students, kids, young adults is insurmountable in some cases because you've had something all the way until 18 and then all of a sudden have a nice day.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know people, I'm not to diminish the fact that people are trying to minimize some of that harshness of reality when they walk out emancipated. But nonetheless, the majority still are stuck in that situation, and a percentage of them become homeless.
Yeah,
And those are the same kids that could have gone on to college.
exactly. And when you look around in the greater Sacramento area, of the people who are unhoused, 25% are former foster youth. And that's Sacramento area. If you look at California overall, it's 33%.
Mm.
And so it's just these people who needed this, we call it like a gentle pause. They needed a moment to catch their breath, to be able to try out school, see what they think of college, see what they think of trade school, to not be like in immense debt because they're trying to figure it out, or like having to work 4 jobs, that are only giving them, you can work 5 hours on Tuesday at this job and 3 hours on Wednesday at that job, and trying to balance all of that while trying to do homework. It's really, really hard. And then that's not even counting, like, how are you going to get food? How are you going to pay for your Wi-Fi so that you can do your homework in the evenings and stuff like that? So we thought, okay, this is something we can overcome. And with the help of really great community partners, we had a Sacramento Impact Partners. They funded all the furniture. So that was over $100,000. So all the units are fully furnished, from everything with like couches, beds, dressers, the things you really think about to the things you might not think about. So there's dishes, there's pots and pans, there's mixing bowls, there's um, all the way down to dental floss. We wanted to make sure that everything they need the day they move in is there ready for them.
And let's take a step backwards because we haven't introduced really what Academy Stay is. It's we just furnished something that nobody knows what we're furnishing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit what that is, what happened, how that came to be.
Sure. So
that in itself is the answer right there.
absolutely. We found this really great apartment complex with 32 units. So 4 of those units are used for staffing things, but we completely renovated because it had a lot of deferred maintenance, and it was pretty bad. But we did a lot of renovations, put in like beautiful flooring. They're very, very nice units, and these young people can come if they're 18 to 24. They and former foster, they apply right from our website. Then they get their interview. They come in, they can have a unit, they have a roommate. We did that on purpose because they might need a roommate in the future. We want them to learn, how do you have talks with your roommate about the loud music, or the air conditioning is too cold or it's too warm, or all of the different things, like you never wash your dishes and you didn't put the silverware away, all the things that people fight the first time they're living.
You ate my frozen pizza. That was
Exactly,
yours.
exactly. So we designed it that way on purpose. And it's just a beautiful complex. We have CARB funded for us to have a big garden, like with raised garden beds. I think we
So
have
California Air Resources Board.
Yep.
Yep.
And the Sacramento neighborhood activating on air quality together. So we have a beautiful garden where they can get fresh vegetables. We make sure that it's diverse, right? So like maybe there's a certain vegetable that they had as kids that they maybe didn't get in foster care, or they never had it and they know it's part of their culture and they'd like to try it. So we have a very diverse garden where they can, grow whatever they want. And um, great picnic table area. Really did our best to make it feel like a place where they can have community, which was one of the 3 factors. But the thing I've really loved is they have a Slack channel, right, where they can post whatever.
Just the building for all the students and youth in it.
Yeah, well, no, Slack
their own.
like
It's channels their own. Just amongst themselves.
Well, we're in it too.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so this is where we'll tell them like, hey, there's life skills. So we do have life skills classes on the weekdays where they can go and learn everything from like budgeting to cooking to self-care, all of that kind of stuff. And so that's communicated through Slack as well. But a few things like that. But just not that long ago, I was not there at the time. I saw one student post, does anybody have any rosemary? And I was like, it's in the garden, like I didn't have time to get to my phone to like respond. Somebody else said, there's rosemary in the garden. And the other person said, how do you pick it? Like, which one's rosemary? And the other one said, I'll come out there right now and I'll show you how to pick the rosemary and how to put it on your meal and whatever. And I was not there, but I was just like, this is the most beautiful moment we've had. This is the moment, right? Like, this is it. It's happening. Like, I think even more than the graduations we've seen 14 graduations, and that's amazing. But having them communicate on Slack about the garden, whatever, I don't know why, that was the one that really, really hit me, that they're building community, they're building family, they're building something bigger than we could have structurally put together.
And it's truly personal. That's truly personal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your food. I'm going to help you with your food. And somebody stepped in to say, I'm here for you.
Exactly.
I'm sure that wasn't prevalent in growing up for a lot of these kids.
Exactly. So, a lot of them haven't had it before. So it's not like a natural thing to reach out and ask for help. And it's not
on the flip side, to give it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a beautiful, amazing thing.
Tell me about some of you already mentioned one with CARB, California Air Resources Board. I would imagine you have other partners and other organizations that you work with. What does the collaborative effort look like to support Academy State?
Right now, we are funded heavily by one specific donor, our board chair. And then also we have a lot of like monthly donors. That's our bread and butter, like monthly donors. We love that. Occasional donors, Big Dave Giving, things like that. But we do have several grants. We were just chosen by the Sacramento Region Community Foundation to be part of their 2-year cohort.
With the county, Sacramento County?
Mm-hmm, with Sacramento County. So that's really exciting. We're working with United Way on the Guaranteed Income Program. So that's very exciting. We just had a big project with SMUD where they installed 4 electric car charging stations. They're all dual, so we can up to 8 people
That's
can
awesome.
charge.
Yeah, when you were talking about CARB, I'm thinking, I hope she says SMUD. I hope SMUD's in somehow they've got to be. They are so involved in so many organizations.
Absolutely. And they also funded Seroptimus funded for us to get electric bikes for the youth to use to get to and from school or whatever. SMUG couldn't fund that, but they funded all the infrastructure. So the little corral where they're locked up, the place to charge the batteries so there's not a fire hazard, and um, the bike racks and classes for them to learn safety, stuff like that. So that was all through the SMUD Shine grant.
And we've been thrilled to promote that and support it because it's meaningful.
It's super meaningful. And then when we were at the recipient celebration, we met Saba there, and so they have been teaching the bike classes. So
which is Sacramento Area Bicycle Association.
Yeah, sorry, too many
Okay.
acronyms. I'm glad you know them.
I do.
So yeah, that has been a great partnership as well, because we really want the students to be safe out there and to get all of that instruction as well. Golden One is helping us to do financial literacy, and then Chase as well. They're and Safe Credit Union. They just funded us to help. We have a clothing closet and a food closet, and helped with some of that, and transportation and stuff. And they're also part of the financial literacy. So I'm going to forget somebody and get in trouble.
That's you've done a great job already. And we do know the real essence of the question is to not only identify and share, but to exemplify for others who are thinking, well, we don't really collaborate with too many people. And the answer is you better.
Yeah.
You have to.
Absolutely.
In today's environment, if you're not working with other organizations, I mean, some cases the grant applications require collaboration. They want to see multiple organizations that are going to benefit from the grant as opposed to just one.
Exactly. And that brings to mind OTTP, occupational therapy.
That one I didn't know.
I don't know. But we work closely with them, and they're operating under a Sutter grant that's about to end. And so we're applying together for an extension of that.
Beautiful.
To be able to have their therapists out working with our students.
And one thing to be clear, I don't know if we covered it, but it's students, it's foster youth, yes. 18 to 24, but they must
yes.
be enrolled.
Thank you. So they do have to go to college or trade school. That was that 93% want to, but less than 4% graduate. So we wanted to create this whole place for them to come and live while they are completing their education. And so they're not having to think about working 4 jobs because, they have a safe place to live. They have Wi-Fi. They have their utilities are all taken care for them. And so they're able to do, whether it's a community college or, Sac State or UC Davis, or if it's trade school. We have quite a few in trades. I want to say it's probably 50-50 if they're going to a trade school
okay.
or college. Yeah.
That's great to hear, as I would have expected, the relationship with, the universities, the community colleges, and anybody that can facilitate for these students integration into society and productively.
Right.
And without that burden of, I don't have a place to live. I don't know how to get from point A to point.
Trying to sleep in your car. We see these stories all the time about young people having to sleep in their car and then go to school all day.
Right.
And yeah, exactly. They have several of our students, when they come to us, have been on the streets. I want to say it's over half for sure were sleeping on the streets the night before they entered our program. And so, it's just, they've had it rough. They might not have a lot of clothing. They definitely don't have things to put in their home. They don't have all of that. And several have said it's the first time they've slept in a bed in a very long time. And a lot have said it's the first time they had their own bedroom all to themselves. And so a lot of it too is just like some dignity that, you give somebody some dignity, especially these young people who they're so smart. They're so creative. They've always had to think outside the box, right? It was never just like, hey, you have the same exact life that everybody else in your class has. They're the ones who get told to go to the principal's office and there's a garbage bag full of their stuff, and now they're going to a new home and they never say goodbye to the old home, right? And they went through the pandemic like that. They went through just their most formative years not really knowing where they might sleep later. And then a lot of them, homelessness after that. And so they're just so poised to make a huge change in the world, right? They've already had to think outside the box. They've already had to do things in a creative way. And there's a lot of problems we have in our world right now where we're like, we need some creative thinkers who don't think exactly like everybody who came before them. And so that's who these young people are.
Right. Well, and it was survival for them in many
Mhm.
cases. They had to,
Yeah.
which is really a shame in the grand scheme of things. And to think that the numbers, if I'm not mistaken, 180, 200 foster youth each year are coming into emancipation in Sacramento County
In Sacramento
alone.
County.
It doesn't sound like a big number, but they're not taken care of.
And it adds up fast.
I was just going to say, you have the compounds because
Yeah.
it just keeps growing. And I struggle to say, how can we not fix this?
Mhm.
You know, how can, it's not that many people. And you, as soon as you stop it, as soon as that first 180 is taken care of for the year that breaks it, if it can continue, it's broken. It doesn't come back again.
Yeah.
You know,
That's why I love this whole thing, is because like in the past, working with victims of crime, it wasn't getting solved, right? That
Right.
number's not going away. That number's not going down. It's going up.
Right.
It's like doubling, tripling every single year. Where with this nonprofit is literally changing the trajectory of all of these young people's lives, and it can change for the next group and the next group and the next group. And so every year it's going to, like continue to help, year after year of just all these 182 or, wherever that number lands that year of young people who just need a safe place to live while, they're transitioning out of what happened in foster care.
It's so easy to see this. This is one of those situations where you can visually see it being corrected.
Yeah.
And what you produce as a result of it being corrected is far greater than even if you just eliminated the housing situation.
Right.
Because they're graduating.
Exactly.
They're going through a program. It's an education is a must.
Right.
And with your complex, 32 units is 64 when it's completely full. That's a third of this population that you're dealing with.
It's 56 because 4 of the units are staff stuff,
okay.
right? So 56.
I'm still going to round it up to a third.
There you go. Yeah, 56 kids a year can go through this program and be able to, some of them might stay for a couple years, right? So it's not always going to be 56 every year. But I was just in Washington, D.C. in May, kind of advocating for a couple different bills. So one of them was the Chafee grant, which is what helps pay for their college or trade school. It has been $5,000 since 1999. And so it has never gone up.
If anybody, DC knows that inflation has impacted the society, right?
Right, especially in 27 years.
Right.
So we advocated for that to be increased to $12,000, and it unanimously passed in the House. And so now we're just hoping for the, like, if it's unanimous, like both sides agree, right? Like that never happens. So it'd be really great. Everybody's still holding out hope for it to pass in the Senate. And the other thing was just housing in general. So there's something called the Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. And it's a voucher that can pay for their housing for 3 to 5 years. But there's nowhere near enough. Like nobody even kind of feels like there's enough of them out there. And they were kind of patting themselves on the back a little bit in DC, saying, like last year alone, we gave out 1,400. And I said, okay, 1,400 when nationally 20,000 age out every year. And these are for 18 to 24-year-olds, right? So that's 6 years. That's 120,000 people hoping for one of the 1,400 vouchers, right? And in Sacramento, we get 50 a year. It's nowhere near enough. And so advocating for that as well, to get more vouchers into the hands of these young people. And like if we do a program and we're like, look at this great program, we're helping, what is it? It's like 1%.
Right.
Like that's not it,
That's
right?
not
Like we need to do better, right? And so that's what Academy Stay is trying to do, is just make sure that housing isn't the reason that they're not able to earn a living wage throughout the rest of their lives.
And in so many cases it is. That's because from there, it just cascades downward.
Right. If you end up homeless at 18, 19, right? Like very high likelihood you're in jail by 21.
Right.
Very high likelihood that you have kids before you're 21. I think it's like 71% or something like that. And you're not even able to take care of your own needs, right? And now you have other littles that are also depending on you. And so like if we just, like I call it the gentle pause, if we just take this moment to help them get their education, we as a society decided like our community can raise these kids better than they are being raised at home. But then we just like cut bait at 18 or 21, because there are some programs where they can be until they're 21. But even at 21, all three of my kids who were raised with every privilege they could be offered all came home at least once after age 21, right? Like they don't have a home to go back to that necessarily, where it's safe and where it's clean and where they have food and their needs met. So that's really the spot we're trying to fill for them.
Well, and what's so neat is it's not just a place, it's a fully furnished, fully functioning, fully operational place with support all the way around for all the things that you could possibly encounter, as you had mentioned early on, which is what they need so desperately, because they haven't been exposed to that
Exactly.
more likely than not in foster care.
Well, like if they were in a group home, which a lot are because there's not enough foster homes for teenagers, they might not have even learned to cook because they were in a group home and there's maybe like a cafeteria, or there was somebody who came in and prepared the meals, or even some foster homes, maybe that just like foster parent, like they didn't track, what did you learn at your last home? Okay, I'll teach you, they may have learned how to make spaghetti 5 times, but like, right? Like, have they really learned a lot of things? So one thing we always say is we need to start at square one and start teaching things, right? And so we always think we start at square one. So for instance, we have apartment checks every week. Somebody's checking their apartment, helping them like learn cleaning skills, but also like organizing their things, or just like little tips of how to do things. And we early on, we said, okay, here's the list of things you have to clean, right? You have to clean your living room, you have to clean your bedroom, you have to clean your bathroom, you have to clean your kitchen, and then do the first apartment check, and it's a mess, right? And they're like, I don't know how to do that. And so,
well, guess what? We're going to fix that really quickly.
Exactly. So then we thought, okay, clean your kitchen. That includes like take all your dirty dishes off your table. Come back, the next day. The dirty dishes are now in the sink, but they haven't been washed yet. And so we always say, oh, we didn't start at square one. And so it's not on them at all. It's on us. If we didn't start at square one, how do we expect them to learn starting at square 12? So that's a common phrase. If something's not going right, oh, I guess we didn't start at square one.
And remember, the assumptions are not the same for these kids.
Right.
They've just never been exposed to it.
Exactly. And they're brilliant. It's not a lack of motivation. It's not a lack of intelligence. If you have never seen it before, how do you do it? How do you know how to do it? Right. So.
We'll be right back with Jenny Davidson telling us about Academy Stay right after a few words from those who help make this program possible.
I'm James Beckwith, President and CEO of Five Star Bank. We're dedicated to supporting nonprofit organizations who advocate for the strength, resilience, and vitality of those they serve. When nonprofit organizations thrive, our community does too. By supporting the Nonprofit Podcast Network, Five Star Bank is amplifying the voices and meaningful impact of our nonprofit community. We're Five Star Bank, a trusted nonprofit partner. How can we help you?
We are really excited to be part of the family and contribute to the work that you all are doing. CORE provides fractional and interim executive services, along with comprehensive back-office solutions that go into our client sites and do the work to give them the capacity they need in order to move through transitions, whether that's planned or unplanned. Or companies also work with our accounting and finance, back-office solutions, human resources, technology, and administration. The reason why our back office solutions add value is because we save them time and money, anywhere from 20 to 30% of what they would spend on that back office solution. We work in it so they can actually work on it. CXORE.com, and contact me directly at DTEAT@CXORE.com.
If you're interested in learning more about how CORE may help your organization, visit CXORE.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. Tell me a little bit more about the funding. You said the majority comes from individual donors today.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that won't be sustainable forever.
Right.
What do you see? Where do you envision the likelihood that additional funding could come from?
There's a few. Like I said, we're applying with Sutter for some of that. Hopeful. We just applied for through SAC Steps Forward for the HUD NOFO just happened. So we applied for that. That one is, that one's really hard, right? Like it's hard to get your first step into HUD. We've applied, I think like Dignity Health. And so a lot of grants just require that you have 2 years worth of data. And by the time we finished renovating, our first student came in October of 24. So we haven't even hit 2 years of operational activities yet. But I think—
And 14 graduates.
And 14 graduates already.
In less than 2 years, which is pretty amazing.
It is.
Because you didn't start out with 56 kids either.
Right.
You started out with
one.
Oh, yeah, ahead of time.
We had one for like a month, right? And he felt very overly supervised. And, I think by December, maybe we had 6, right? So it took us a while to get up to being fully operational. And we didn't even have all the buildings done. We started with only one building complete. And then the second building got complete, and then it got furnished. And then we had to buy 10 different things of toothpaste and, just all the little things, make sure all of that's in there. Then the next building, so now all 4 buildings are completed. We put up fencing around the property. We have outdoor cameras everywhere to make sure that things are safe and all of that kind of stuff. So 14 graduates. We have one who she got her bachelor's in psychology, which is fabulous. We just had a graduate who graduated with her associates from Sac City, and she got an inaugural award for being a world changer and got a full ride scholarship to UCLA. So
that's awesome.
Very exciting. So she's headed off there in late August, I think, or early September. And all of those are hugely.
It's a trickle down too, because these kids are together and they see somebody succeed like that, then they can really realize I can do this too.
And I remind them, I started college in my late 30s. Like 100% of them have more education than I had at their age. And I tell them constantly, like, you can do more than I've done so far. You see what I'm doing. I started college in my late 30s. You're all in your 20s. You can do more. And so they're like, really? Yeah, absolutely. I believe in you. And I wasn't as creative as you are. And I wasn't as, motivated maybe in some ways or whatever. Like, you're gonna do amazing things, and I'm just here to
have the
watch
threat
it.
of losing your residence if you didn't go to school.
Yeah, that's true too.
There's a motivation.
There is a motivation. Yeah.
And you said something just in the comments there. I believe in you. How many times have those kids heard that?
Yeah. Probably
none.
Hopefully a little bit, like probably a lot or none, or maybe they've heard it a little, but they've heard more people say they're never going to amount to anything, or they're going to be just like mom or just like dad or just like whoever abused them. And they've been told some really terrible lies about themselves. And so it's just up to us to kind of show them the truth.
So there's 4 units that you've got today. The next question in the conversation is a fun one, and I almost wanted to answer some of it for you earlier, but because I'm seeing it. If money wasn't an object, what would it look like?
I think I would want a second complex in Sacramento. So ours is it's an older complex, and it's not very ADA accessible. Like, we've made, it's possible for a couple to be ADA, but like if we had more than 4 students at a time who needed that might be an issue. So that would potentially be something I'd want. But I would really love either for us to kind of copy paste and put this in other cities that have multiple like trade schools, community colleges, and universities all available. That's kind of the secret sauce that I think makes it really work in Sacramento, where it wouldn't work in a rural area because you don't have as many opportunities.
Yeah.
But I would love that. But like if there's somebody who's, they're in Texas right now and I'm not ready to put one in Texas right now, and they call me up and they're like, can you just tell me how you did it? I will give you access to every form we've ever created. Like my thought is we need to help these youth. It doesn't have to be me. But I have offered, LA County wants it, Tehama County wants it. I brought up Texas because somebody did tell me in Texas that they wanted somebody in Wisconsin. And I said, I'll give you all the information. I don't have the bandwidth today to make it happen in other places, but I think once we're fully funded here by grants and donors and stuff, that not needing to use our board president so much.
Lean heavily on an individual.
Yeah, on just one
but thank
person.
God for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So then I think, we would probably look to like, how can we replicate this in more places and make sure that we're helping more young people? We just had a couple people move up from Southern California just because they heard about Academy Stay and they wanted to go to Sac State, and they knew that there was the possibility to have housing here. So
how do the students find out about you? How do they know you exist?
Some of it is word of mouth. They all kind of know each other locally and tell each other. A lot of it is through the colleges and universities. LA specifically already knows about us. I think they're telling some of their youth about us. A lot comes from CPS. There are independent living programs in different communities who know about us and refer over. All the local like shelters know that we help foster youth. And so like if they get a homeless youth who happens to be former foster, then they might refer some to us. So honestly, a lot of it is word of mouth. Like we have reunited, I want to say 4 sibling groups who one of them moves in and then their sibling moves in later. A couple of them were foster siblings and a couple were bio siblings. So every time that happens, like that's like that Rosemary again, right? Like it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that they're finding each other again.
And I love, for the benefit of those who are just listening, I'm looking at Jenny. Her face lights up. Her smile is huge. And she's just talking about these student collaborations where they realize things they didn't think could possibly ever happen.
Yeah.
And here they are happening. I'm thinking, even that's too small, thinking we should just eradicate the whole problem in Sacramento. We need 90 units because it's 2 people per.
Yeah.
And it's probably times 4 so that we can sequence the entire, academic 4 years of school. And it's done. It's fixed.
There you go. Then Sacramento is on its way.
So much money on so many other things that haven't come close, that are 1,000 times more expensive.
And the homeless problem goes away by 25% overnight.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. This.
And there's dignity, right? That's the thing. Like it doesn't feel, like you're living in, this place that was like a shack and it somehow got made over and we found a couch on a corner somewhere that we brought in for you, right? Like it's beautiful. Everybody should just right now go to academystay.org, look at, there's a 360 view.
As if you were shopping for an apartment or a house. I saw it. I loved it. It was just exactly the same.
And every unit's the same. So that unit is exactly what all the other ones look like. They all get to spend $100 on art when they move in. So it feels like their room. We want it to not feel like an institutional place. They can't make it feel like their own. They get to pick out their own bedding. They get to pick out their own towels because we want them to have things that feel like theirs, right? And they get to take that stuff when they go as well. So it's not an expectation that, get the bedding of your dreams and you'll never see it again. Yeah, right. Start over again, right? So all of those items they get to keep.
That's awesome. Back to reality.
Yeah.
What is the greatest need today?
Greatest need today, funding. I think every nonprofit, we're either lying or we're bringing up funding, right? Like it's for everybody. Funding is individual donors, monthly donors, super helpful. If somebody knows of like great grant programs that are out there, let us know. And then in addition to that, we have all these life skills, right? So people who want to come in and volunteer and teach those things. Somebody who really loves gardening, they don't have room to garden at home, like come out and volunteer in our garden because that's a huge need. Like I have a black thumb. I always say if there was like a child protective services for plants, like
You'd be in their jail, right?
I would be. And so like people who can come in and like know the difference between kale and a weed, that kind of thing. Or one thing I was so shocked by this, and I don't know why I was shocked. It was just another layer of impact is that these young people, most of them, nobody has ever shown them how to drive. And who would, right? If you were in foster care and then you're unhoused or you're sleeping on couches somewhere, where would you have learned how to drive? Who would have let you use their car?
Right.
Who over this age is there to, be the passenger while you're learning? So people who want to teach young people how to drive and, I can't do it. I taught my kids how to drive. They all tell you like that was the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Like I would be screaming instead of saying like, slow down. I'd be like, we're all going to die. So somebody else needs to do that. That's not my skill set. Different kinds of mentors, just somebody like you, like if you've been a CASA before, and we do have a super close partnership with Sacramento CASA. They're fabulous.
And we have had CASA on court-appointed special advocates. There's a wonderful episode.
Oh,
If you don't know what it is a phenomenal program to support youth through the legal process of
exactly.
emancipation.
Exactly. And our youth who are at Academy Stay, who had a CASA when they were younger, are monumentally doing better than the ones who did not have a CASA when they were younger. Like it's night and day. You can tell the difference.
I'm glad you said that because I don't think people really realize the significance of what that means to have that caring, considerate person in your life at that point in time,
Exactly.
because it's necessary.
Especially the youth who had to move from home to home. The CASA might follow them. They might never
Maybe the
see
only
the
thing
other
that
people.
follows them.
Exactly.
Yes, there's some continuity to this disruption that these kids.
Several of our youth still meet with their CASA and
Awesome.
they're in their 20s and their CASA will still come pick them up and take them out to do something. So, yeah, so like very few of our, all that to say, like driving lessons is huge. Anything like whatever somebody's really interested in, there's probably somebody at Academy Stay who would benefit from that, right? Like crocheting or dance or musicals or whatever you're interested in. We have a youth who's very curious about that. We have a youth right now who's learning about Salesforce, right? So like there's got to be somebody out there who's like, oh, Salesforce is my jam. Like I want to meet this person.
Right.
Or so those kinds of things, always a huge need. And then we have our clothing closet. So it's not huge, it's about the size of this room, right? So I don't want everybody who's listening to this to pull up.
So it's about 10 by 14. So if anybody's
don't drive up with 14 bags of clothes in your car, but interview clothes or things like that help them to feel more confident, like they're going to do a presentation at school, or so we do have that, or we have a food closet, but little donations like that. And we have on our website, we have an Amazon wish list. So those are almost all specifically from our students. They've said like, I want a box fan, or I want some of them, because we give them everything they need day one, but we don't resupply. So there's things like toilet paper. Honestly, toilet paper is one of the biggest requests that we get. So I get on there all the time and buy toilet paper because I just hate the fact that they're,
to
rationing.
think I've got to worry about my toilet paper,
Yeah,
right?
like
What
is
is this,
that
the
thing?
pandemic again?
I actually said that. Yeah, so that kind of thing, or laundry soap, or they're not asking. Every now and then they're asking for a want, because everybody has wants, right? Like we tell them, put that on there. But a lot of times they're asking for their needs. And so, we're still providing it for everybody on their first day, but it's not something that as a nonprofit we can continue to do for 2 years for every single person.
So then they would just on their own, because they probably have part-time jobs or something.
Right.
It's their responsibility.
little
There's stuff
things.
that they have to take care of too, which is good because
It's
they're
good.
learning the responsibility of that.
Exactly.
Managing their
And
money.
prioritizing, right? Like, do you really want that bottle of alcohol that's extremely expensive, or a carton of cigarettes, or do you want laundry soap and toothpaste and bath gel, right? Like,
Right. Well, good. I'm figuring that they probably figured that one out pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with all the mentoring they have around them.
Yeah.
So the next question, you've done a wonderful job of sharing some of what those successes look like. I mean, the graduates, the Rosemary,
Yeah.
the sharing, the consideration. Let's step back a minute to go a bit beyond the mission. This is where we talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
And we got your front side as what got you interested into this organization and how you came to be with Academy Stay. But let's learn a little bit more about Jenny Davidson and just some of the things that she's about
Okay.
when you're not
When
at
I'm
Academy
not
Stay,
there. Okay.
which is hard because it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
It's there. It's all the time. You go to the
Exactly.
grocery store. You
It's
say,
my other baby.
I can probably use this at the
Exactly.
at the complex or
Yeah.
whatever. So, favorite color?
This is hilarious. Everybody asks me that. I don't have a favorite color. I'm the only person that I've ever heard answer that with that. I don't. I love, is it a car? Is it a house? Is it a shirt? Like I like every color. It's the whole rainbow for me.
Okay. And today you're wearing
Today I'm
predominantly
in
purple.
Yep.
Kings would appreciate that.
They would. My husband is very Kings fan, so.
So is my son. Die hard.
Yep.
Beach, mountains, city, or a road trip?
It's anything with water. So beach, mountains if it's a lake, right? So yeah, water.
A road trip going to the ocean.
There you go.
Okay. What's one local place you wish more people knew about?
Gosh, that's a good question.
Could be like a restaurant, could be a getaway, like a bike trail. I love the bike trail, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm very into musicals. I think a lot of people do know about Broadway Sacramento, but they don't realize the caliber of the shows that are there. I've been to Broadway, love watching shows at Broadway in New York. The ones in Sacramento are just as good. And I've had people go, "Oh, you saw that on Broadway?" Yeah, and I saw it in Sacramento too, and it's exactly the same. Like the level of access that local people have to be able to see stuff like that is, I think, more than they understand.
Music Circus is going to love you for that one.
Love them too. Yep.
What amazes me, and aside here, we had the American River Parkway Foundation come in and do an episode. Only 15% of the market knows that the Parkway exists.
Yeah.
15%.
Yeah.
And so you say, you think of Music Circus or Broadway Sacramento, whatever the series is that's coming through. It's less than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me on how much we have access to, and people just don't know.
Yeah,
They're not aware.
I talk to people all the time who say, "Oh, I dream of going to New York and seeing Broadway shows someday." That like you've arrived, you've like lived my bucket list. I'm like, it's here too. Like it's just as good.
Yeah. If you haven't, then
please go
see it.
Yeah, enjoy.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. I think TV shows that don't require any intelligence whatsoever. Just like goofy, silly, I love like Ted Lasso, like just watching it. I'm not learning. I'm not watching a documentary. I'm not one of these people who put my TV in the attic and pursues like high level kind of hobbies.
I'm truly escaping. I'm just staring at the screen and being entertained.
Just entertainment, just silliness, lighthearted. I'm not making a decision right now. Nothing I do is going to impact a life. I can just chill and watch TV. Yeah.
How about a small win that always makes your day?
I think, honestly, when one of our students just says hi to me, like that is huge to me. They say, "Hi, Jenny." I'm like, love that.
That's great. What's one word your team would use to describe you?
I think probably empathetic.
One chapter of your life that explains a lot about who you are.
The loss of my son.
Yes. And then what would your friends say you're best known for?
Probably I have a very unique laugh. I have like if I'm in the grocery store, they could be across the grocery store.
Jenny.
They'll say, "I know Jenny's here."
I love that. That's fun because it's distinctive. And it is. But it makes other people laugh too, which is, it's just that expression. It's so nice.
Thank you.
How can the community support you best if they're interested in learning more about Academy Stay, or if they're interested in contributing? What's the best way?
Go to our website is big. That's where we have our wish list, or where you could sign up to be a donor. You can read about our program. You can tell others about our program. You can sign up to get the newsletter or to be a volunteer. You can see what the units look like. Tell young people out in the in public, when you see them and their former fosters, like tell them that there's hope and there's dignity and there's a place where they can call home.
And that's academystay.org, correct?
Mhm.
We'll put that in the show notes too, so it's easy for access just to click through. Jenny, what you've created and what you and your team are doing is an unbelievably exemplary model of how communities should be supporting our foster youth. And you're going to change that 4% graduation rate for sure.
Absolutely.
You can't not.
Exactly.
And the way that it's being accomplished, as we spoke a little bit earlier, the ability to diminish to some degree the homelessness situation in any given market that this
Mhm.
model fits and works is something we've been trying to do for so long unsuccessfully. And here you are now in your second year, 14 graduates, and it's going to just compound. It's just going to keep going and growing as you continue to go and grow. So for that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It really is, it's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's go make something better.
Let's do it.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. We hope today's episode inspired you and gave you a deeper look into the work of our local nonprofits. If you believe in our mission to amplify their voices, please take a moment to leave us a positive review and share this episode with a friend. It helps more people discover the incredible work happening in our community. And don't miss future episodes. Subscribe to our weekly updates and monthly newsletter at nonprofpod.com. And if you're part of a nonprofit that would like to be featured, we'd love to hear from you. Just visit the Guests tab on our website. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is recorded and produced at Hear Me Now Studio with generous support from our outstanding partners. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, online at captrust.com. Western Health Advantage, local care with community impact. Find the plan that fits at westernhealth.com. CORE, executive leadership and comprehensive support services. Visit cxore.com. And 5 Star Bank, a local trusted advisor to community nonprofits for over 25 years. 5starbank.com.